Vladimir Putin has said that Russia is not interested in any arms race and is able to respond to threats. The Russian president also blames the problems in strategic stability to West's actions, while adding that the global situation right now is deplorable and continues to deteriorate. Furthermore, he has also added that Russia is ready to stick to New START arms treaty and a year after it expires, if US does the same. Now we go back to our guest discussion with Mohammed Osman. He's an international relations specialist, joins us live from Cairo. Thank you, Mohammed, for staying with us. And you were just speaking about how resilient is Russia in your previous answer as well as the previous discussion. What's your reaction towards this breaking news that has just come in?
I think President Putin is giving a signaling to President Trump that he is not interested in going back to the area of complete enmity with the United States, which was the case basically during the Biden era Russia-US politics. However, now Russia is taking advantage of Trump's disinterest in continuing this confrontation by proxy between Russia and the United States, and is eager to de-escalate. And he is sending the Americans a message telling them that he is not interested in engaging in an arms race reminiscent of that previous arms race between the Soviet Union, Soviet Russia, and the United States and the West back during the Cold War. However, President Putin might have all of these wishes, but on the ground, of course, Russia is engaged in an arms race with the West. So is China as well. And the entire world right now is actually scrambling for rearmament. And there is massive military spending of some sort because the world is in a state of constant instability at the moment. We are at a moment in history, Asuma, that historians and political scientists might call the interregnum. And of course, this is a Latin term borrowed from the Roman Empire when it was basically the transitional period between Roman emperors. And now the world is witnessing a very similar predicament, where now the world is transitioning from the unipolar moment where the United States, since the year 1991 up until 5 years back, it was the sole hegemon and the sole superpower in the world, to a new a world system or international system that is supposed to be multipolar, with other big powers playing a prominent role alongside the United States, namely countries like China, like Russia, like India, and many others.
Mohammed, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your insight throughout our news. That was Mohammed Osman from Cairo. Now we move on to our next news. Nepal's interim government, led by former Chief Justice Sushila Karti, has set up a panel to investigate the violence during anti-corruption protests this month that has killed 74 people and forced Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli to quit. More than 2,100 people were injured while protesters set fire to the main office complex that houses the Prime Minister's office, the Supreme Court, and the Parliament building, as well as malls, luxury hotels, and showrooms that the demonstrators said were owned by people close to corrupt politicians. Ramesh Vorkanal, who Karti put in charge of the finance ministry, has said that the three-member panel headed by retired Judge Gauri Bahadur Karti had been given 3 months to complete the probe. Now for this discussion, we're joined by retired Major General G.G. Dwivedi. He's a defense analyst, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you, Major General, for joining us again. Good to see you.
Thank you, Asuma.
Good to see you. Now, how could this formation of the investigation panel and the leadership of interim government influence public trust? Do you think they will be able to gain the trust back of the very angry, perhaps very angry civilians in Nepal moving forward?
Asuma, well, absolutely, because if you recall this month early, Nepal went through almost a tsunami because the student protest which started against the government for corruption and also for inefficiency actually turned very violent, and it took a heavy toll because almost 74 people lost their lives and more than 2,100 were injured. Now the interim government that have been brought in, its major challenge is to bring in normalcy in Nepal, create an environment wherein the elections that are scheduled for March 26 can be conducted without any violence or peacefully. And more than that, currently the Nepalese people, the Nepalese society needs certain amount of healing touch. So this committee that have been formed will definitely go a long way in assuage the feelings of those who lost their lives and their kith and kin, and also it will send a message that government is there to clean up the system for whatever interim time it is there. But the point at issue is, I think this step is in the right direction because a panel headed by a former judge, Bahadur Korki, will definitely come out with certain very subtle outcomes as to what exactly was the protest about, what was the damage done, who are the people who are involved, and he has stated that he will be looking at both the sides. So I think that this panel that has been set up is in the right direction. It will assuage the feelings of those who lost their lives and their kith and kin, and also in general public, it will give a message that government wants to bring in normalization and also build in confidence amongst the people so that Nepal is back on track for its development and prosperity.
And,
Asuma.
and Major General, what do you think, what key findings are expected from this panel to uncover about the current government's response to anti-corruption?
Well, first and foremost, I think this panel primarily is going to look at what were the reasons for the protest, what exactly triggered the protest, where was the corruption, how deep was the corruption, who are the people involved in the violence, because after violence have been on both sides. Because as far as former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has stated, that there have been no force used against the protesters, but at the same time, there have been heavy casualties after 74 people lost their lives and 2,100 got injured. So I'm sure this panel will also go into the violence and who were the actual people who were involved in the violence, and of course, to what extent was the corruption, and who are the people who are actually finger pointed by the students. I think it will be a fact-finding, panel which will go into the gamut, primarily what led to the protest, who are the people who are involved in the protest, and to what extent was the corruption the main issue which the student actually went into the violence, and lastly also attendant issue like the unemployment, which may be not directly into the panel ambit, but I'm sure this will be addressed because this is one of the core issues also which led to the protest in Nepal in the early this month. Asuma.
Right. Thank you very much, Major